I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I might have rearranged his perfect teeth into modern art. There we were, at a dinner I didn't even want. My wife, Ashley, had asked me to meet her for a serious talk. I thought maybe, just maybe, she was finally ready to work on our marriage. Foolish of me. Instead, I walked into a candlelit ambush. She was already seated at the table with Chase Donovan, her so-called colleague. The guy was dressed in a black shirt 2 sizes too small, the kind that screams protein shake enthusiast. He smirked at me the second I sat down, like I was interrupting his audition for most punchable face of the year. Ashley smiled, that fake polite smile she'd perfected over the last 6 months. Logan, this is Chase. You've heard me mention him. He leaned forward like we were at some kind of showdown. I'll make this simple, he said, voice smooth, practiced. You've got 2 options, Logan. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. Ashley didn't flinch. She just sat there, watching, like this was the final scene of a movie she'd already spoiled for herself. My ears rang. I could practically hear the universe laughing. I didn't rise to his bait. Not fully. I smiled back, slow and steady, and said, "You want your teeth whole, or in pieces?" The look on his face faltered for the first time. Ashley frowned like I was embarrassing her. That was rich. Her, embarrassed, after dragging me into this little circus to dump me in front of her shiny new toy. Security eventually pulled me out after Chase learned what happens when you smirk at the wrong man. Outside, in the cold, I stood there realizing something important. She didn't bring me here to talk. She brought me here to watch me lose. That was the beginning, or maybe the end, depending on how you see it. But either way, that night didn't break me. It woke me up. Because what Ashley didn't know, what Chase certainly didn't know, was that I was already 3 steps ahead. When I got home that night, the silence was heavier than any slammed door. The house smelled like her perfume, only sharper, like it was trying too hard to cover something up. I walked straight into the bedroom. Bedmate. Corners tucked in tight. Perfect like a hotel room. Ashley never made the bed like that. Not once in our 10 years together. I sat down, hands still red from earlier, and my mind replayed everything. Chase's smug voice, her blank expression, the way she looked almost satisfied as I was dragged away. And then my phone buzzed. Her text, "You didn't have to do that. You embarrassed yourself. Not are you okay? Not let's talk. Just blame. Cold, clinical blame." That's when the switch flipped. I wasn't suspicious anymore. I knew. And if I knew, I needed proof. Something solid. Something she couldn't wiggle out of with crocodile tears and gaslighting. I started in the closet. Nothing at first. Then the shoe rack. A pair of red heels. Brand new, expensive, and definitely not for me. She hadn't worn heels in months. Next stop, her vanity. I picked up her tablet. No passcode. She thought I trusted her too much to check. Rookie mistake. The first photo nearly knocked the air out of me. Ashley, barely dressed, mirror selfie in a hotel room I didn't recognize. Timestamp. Last weekend. The same weekend she claimed she was at her friend's baby shower. Another swipe. Chase in the background, shirtless, brushing his teeth. My jaw tightened. My breathing went shallow. There were more. Photos. Videos. Voice messages. Him calling her my little secret. Her giggling like a schoolgirl, whispering things that made my skin crawl. And then the one that cut deeper than the rest. Her text to him. He still thinks we're just going through a rough patch. Poor baby. Poor baby. That was me. That was what she called me while she was sneaking around with a man who thought tight shirts were a personality trait. I closed the tablet, set it back neatly on her vanity, and sat in the dark for a long time. She thought she was ahead of me. She thought she had the upper hand. But she forgot one thing. I don't play checkers. I play chess. And I'd already started the game before she even knew we were at war. The next morning, she waltzed into the kitchen like the night before hadn't even happened. Hair tied up, sipping her coffee, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look at me at first. Finally, she glanced up. What? I didn't answer. I just slid her tablet across the table, open on the messages. Her fingers froze mid-scroll. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then slowly looked up at me. Her first words weren't "I'm sorry" or "let me explain." No, they were, "Why were you snooping through my stuff?" That told me everything I needed to know. Guilt? None. Remorse? Not a drop. Just arrogance. I leaned forward. "You lied to me. You humiliated me. You paraded me into a restaurant to get dumped like a prop. And then you mocked me behind my back. She rolled her eyes, sipping her coffee. You're being dramatic, Logan. It's not like I murdered anyone. People fall out of love. It happens. I couldn't help but laugh. Quiet, sharp, the kind that doesn't sound right even to your own ears. Fall out of love? That's what you call sneaking around, making me the punchline to your little inside jokes with Chase. She set her cup down hard enough to rattle the saucer. Don't make this ugly. You'll just embarrass yourself again. Embarrass myself. That was her angle. She honestly thought she could still shame me into silence, like I was some schoolboy caught passing notes in class. I stood up, calm as stone. Ashley, you've been playing a game. But here's the part you missed. I leaned close, voice low enough to sting. You're not the only one who knows how to keep secrets. For the first time in weeks, her mask cracked. Just a flicker, but I saw it. A flash of uncertainty. She didn't know what I meant. She didn't like not knowing. And that, right there, was my leverage. I kissed her forehead like a dutiful husband heading off to work, then walked out the door. I didn't go to the office. I went somewhere else. Somewhere she never thought I'd return to. The storage unit. Because while she thought I was blind, I'd been collecting pieces of her puzzle for months. And now, it was time to put them together. The air in the storage unit was always the same, stale, tinged with dust and faint motor oil. Not the kind of place anyone lingers, which is exactly why I chose it. If you want to keep something safe from a lying spouse, you don't hide it in a safe at home or on a hard drive in the office. You stash it where she'd never think to look, between a box of old winter coats and a crate of broken Christmas lights. I rolled up the metal door, stepped inside, and pulled the chain to flick on the buzzing fluorescent light. There it was, the black filing cabinet against the back wall. My cabinet. The one I'd labeled tax records so boringly even a thief would yawn and move on. I opened the second drawer and pulled out the folder. Manila, thick, edges worn. I'd been building it slowly for months, since the first time Ashley came home smelling like a perfume sample from a mall kiosk and swore she'd been out with coworkers. Back then, I told myself maybe she deserved the benefit of the doubt. But I also told myself the benefit of the doubt didn't mean blind faith. So I started collecting. Quietly. Methodically. The folder held hotel receipts. Credit card statements. Odd charges she thought I'd never notice. $47 at a spa in a city she was supposedly only passing through for work. A dinner for two at a restaurant she once mocked as pretentious. I laid them out on the fold-out table in the unit, one by one, like pieces to a jigsaw puzzle. Each document was a brushstroke in a portrait of betrayal, and the picture was finally clear. But the best part wasn't the receipts. It was the emails. Months ago, I'd set up an old iPad in the guest room under the guise of giving visiting family away to stream Netflix. Ashley never questioned it. What she didn't know was that her iCloud account synced to it automatically when she logged in once. She never logged out. I'd been watching every message since. I slid the USB drive out of the envelope and plugged it into my laptop. Hundreds of screenshots, neatly organized by date and subject. I scrolled through them. Each line of text like another drop of acid. Wish you were here instead of him. You make me feel alive again. He's so boring lately. It's like living with furniture. Furniture. That one stung in a way the others didn't. Furniture doesn't love. Furniture doesn't put food on the table. Furniture doesn't show up when your car breaks down at midnight on the freeway. But to her, that's all I was. I sat back, staring at the screen, letting the silence of the unit settle around me. Most men would have blown up at this point. Called her out. Packed a bag. Filed the papers. But that wasn't my style. See, Ashley thought she had me pegged. Predictable. Steady. A man who'd take the insult on the chin and keep paying the mortgage because that's what good husbands do. She didn't know me as well as she thought. I don't raise my voice. I don't throw tantrums. I don't swing wildly hoping to land a punch. I calculate. I plan. And when I strike, it's not a jab, it's a guillotine. I shut the laptop, slid the drive back into the envelope, and tucked everything neatly into the folder again. Then I locked it back in the cabinet. Not because I was done with it, but because timing is everything. You don't play your hand while the dealer's still shuffling. On the way out, I passed a mirror leaning against a stack of boxes. I caught my reflection, hair a little grayer than I remembered, lines deeper around the eyes. I looked tired, but not weak, not broken, more like a man sharpening the last edge of a blade. Back in the car, I drove without music, just the hum of the tires on asphalt, my mind working like a machine. Step 1 was complete. I had the evidence. Step 2 would be trickier, getting her to show her hand. Because the best revenge isn't just about proving someone's guilt. It's about making them walk straight into their own trap. When I got home, Ashley was sitting on the couch with her laptop, pretending to look busy. She glanced up when I walked in, gave me a faint smile. "Long day?" she asked, voice syrupy sweet. I nodded, dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, and smiled back. "Yeah, productive." That word seemed to bother her. She tilted her head. "Productive how?" "Oh, just tying up loose ends." I said it casually, then disappeared into the kitchen for a drink. I didn't need to see her face to know she was unsettled. For the next week, I played the role of the oblivious husband flawlessly. I cracked jokes at dinner. I kissed her cheek before bed. I even fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom she'd been nagging about for months. Every move was deliberate, because while she thought she was deceiving me, I was letting her believe it, feeding her the illusion of control. But behind the curtain, I was preparing the stage. I met with my lawyer, set up new bank accounts, transferred assets she didn't even know I had. The house, paid off in my name alone. The retirement fund, split in a way that gave her less than half, thanks to a prenuptial clause she'd signed years ago and conveniently forgotten about. She was too busy sneaking off with Chase to notice. One night, around 11 p.m., she tiptoed out of the bedroom, thinking I was asleep. I waited until the front door clicked shut before grabbing my phone. A quick check of the tracker app I'd installed on her car months ago showed her heading straight to the Burstone Hotel. Same place as half the receipts in my folder. I didn't follow. Not yet. I just smiled, rolled over, and let her keep digging the hole herself. Because the cruelest revenge isn't catching someone in the act. It's letting them think they've gotten away with it. It's giving them rope, enough to hang themselves twice over. And Ashley? She was practically begging for the noose. By the time she stumbled back in around 2 a.m., hair messy, shoes in her hand, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee. She froze when she saw me, then forced a laugh. "Couldn't sleep?" I stirred my coffee, keeping my eyes on her. "Nah, just planning." She blinked. "Planning what?" I let the silence hang a beat too long. Then I smiled faintly. "You'll see." She stood there, confused, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. For once, Ashley didn't have a script. She couldn't tell if I knew or if I was bluffing. And that uncertainty? That was my favorite part. Because when someone like her doesn't know where you stand, they can't help but panic. And panic makes people sloppy. And sloppy people make mistakes that if you want to know when a liar's facade starts to crack, watch their eyes. They can keep their mouth moving, keep the excuses flowing, but the eyes always give it away. Ashley's eyes were restless now, darting, shifting, always checking if I was buying her stories. Spoiler, I wasn't. Over the next 2 weeks, she made more mistakes than I could have hoped for. It started small. One night, she claimed she had a networking dinner with a client. I told her to have fun, kissed her cheek, and watched her drive off in that little Lexus she was so proud of. 10 minutes later, the tracker app showed her car parked at the Burstone Hotel. Again, I didn't confront her. I ordered Chinese takeout, ate on the couch, and watched the Lakers lose by 12. She walked in at 11:47 p.m. with hair that looked like it had been through a wind tunnel and a story about traffic on the freeway. Her eyes flicked toward mine as she spoke. That little flick told me she was wondering if I'd caught on. I smiled, kissed her forehead, and said, "Rough night, huh? You deserve a good rest." She visibly relaxed, which was exactly what I wanted. Because nothing makes a liar sloppier than false security. The next mistake came courtesy of her phone. One morning, while she was in the shower, it buzzed on the nightstand. A preview of the message flashed across the screen. "Chase, last night was worth every risk. Next weekend, same room?" I didn't even touch the phone. Didn't need to. I just filed the information in my mind. Next weekend, same room. Perfect. See, Ashley thought she was living 2 lives. Wife at home, mistress at the hotel. But the truth was, she was living on my stage. And every risk she bragged about taking with Chase was nothing compared to the trap I was building. Meanwhile, I was busy. I met with my lawyer again, fine-tuned the divorce petition. We adjusted property division so she'd walk away with little more than her car and her clothes. That prenup she signed when she was starry-eyed and 23? Ironclad. She might have forgotten it, but my lawyer and I hadn't. I also called my accountant. Had him shift the liquid assets into a trust she couldn't touch. She'd get no alimony, No slice of the retirement pie, no steak in the house. By the time she realized what was happening, it would all be locked down. But legal and financial revenge wasn't enough. I wanted poetic justice, something that would sting her pride more than losing money. That's when I thought of her family. Ashley loved playing the perfect daughter, the golden sister, the woman who had it all together. Her mother practically worshipped her. Her friends saw her as the one who married well. Imagine their faces when the curtain dropped. So I bought a small camera, something discreet, wireless, motion activated. Slipped it into my briefcase. The next Friday, she told me she was meeting a friend for drinks. Same line she'd used a dozen times before. I nodded, smiled, and kissed her goodbye. Once she left, I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed the briefcase and drove out. I parked a block from the Burstone, strolled in like a guest, and took the elevator to the 6th floor. I knew the room number. She wasn't clever enough to change it often. When I reached the door, I slipped the camera under the gap and pressed the adhesive side to the underside of the dresser. Took me less than 30 seconds. Then I left. Calm, steady, invisible. Back home, I poured myself a whiskey and pulled up the live feed. There she was, Ashley, my wife, walking in with Chase, laughing, kissing, tossing her purse onto the bed. She looked 20 years younger in that moment, drunk on the thrill of getting away with something. I watched for exactly 3 minutes, not out of masochism, but to confirm the evidence was solid. Then I closed the feed and went upstairs. That camera would stay, recording, cataloging. Every time she came back for more, it would be there, gathering proof. The next morning, Ashley returned with a fake smile and a box of pastries, as if croissants could erase betrayal. "Thought I'd surprise you," she said, setting the box on the counter. I kissed her cheek. "You always do." She laughed, a little too quickly. Her eyes darted again. Always the eyes. The following week, I compiled everything. The receipts, the emails, the texts, and now, the videos. I burned them onto a flash drive labeled with one word, exit. Not my exit. Hers. See, Ashley thought divorce would be on her terms. She imagined she'd dump me, run off with Chase, and maybe take half of what I'd built. She didn't realize I'd already removed every weapon from her hands. And I wasn't just aiming for a clean escape. I was aiming for humiliation. Because the one thing she loved more than Chase was her image. And I was going to shatter it in front of everyone who thought she was perfect. I started small, seeding doubt. At dinner with her parents, I casually mentioned how busy she'd been with work dinners. Her mother frowned, asked Ashley if she was overdoing it. Ashley stammered something about networking. Later, at a barbecue with friends, I joked about how Ashley practically lives at the Burstone these days. Everyone laughed. Except Ashley. She froze, wine glass halfway to her lips. I never pushed too far. Just enough to plant suspicion. Just enough to make her sweat. And sweat she did. The more I stayed calm, the more nervous she became. One night, she actually asked me, "Logan, are we okay?" I kissed her forehead, smiled, and said, "Never better." She didn't believe it. And that was the point. By now, the stage was nearly set. The evidence was airtight. The legal side was handled. The financial side was untouchable. All that remained was the finale, the cruel little twist she'd never see coming. And it was coming soon. The weekend was approaching. Another networking trip. Another night at the Burstone with her protein shake Romeo. What Ashley didn't know was that this time, the audience would be larger than she ever imagined. The Friday she thought would be just another networking trip began like every other. Ashley dressed carefully, more carefully than she ever did when we went out together. Tight black dress, hair curled, perfume thick enough to follow her like a trail of breadcrumbs. She kissed me goodbye at the door, lips brushing my cheek in a gesture so practiced it almost felt real. "Don't wait up," she said lightly. I smiled. Wouldn't dream of it. The door closed. Her Lexus purred out of the driveway, and I checked my watch. 6:42 p.m. Right on schedule. Now, Ashley believed she was slipping into her usual secret life. Wine, hotel sheets, and Chase's protein shake charm. What she didn't know was that this particular evening, her stage was set, her spotlight fixed, and her audience already waiting. See, I'd been working the phone all week. Quiet calls, deliberate invitations. Her parents, her sister, a couple of close friends. Even her boss, the one who thought she was the most reliable employee on the team. Each got the same line from me. Ashley wanted me to surprise her tonight with a small gathering at the Burstone Hotel. She's been under so much stress with work. I thought it'd be nice if we all showed up to support her. They bought it. Why wouldn't they? I was the reliable husband, the thoughtful planner, the guy who never made a scene. By 7:30, I was parked across the street from the Burstone, sipping coffee and watching as cars trickled into the lot. Her mother's blue sedan, her sister's SUV, two of her co-workers' compacts. One by one, they disappeared into the lobby, smiling, expecting balloons and hors d'oeuvres. Instead, they'd find Ashley, in her element. I gave them 15 minutes to gather upstairs, then pulled out my phone and checked the live feed. My little hidden camera had a perfect angle of the room. Bed messy. Ashley perched on the edge in that black dress. Chase leaning against the dresser like he was auditioning for the role of homewrecker #1. Ashley laughed, tossed her hair, poured him a drink. He leaned in close, whispered something, and she touched his chest like she'd touched mine years ago when she still meant it. I didn't feel rage, not even jealousy, just a cold, sharp clarity. I texted her sister. Room 614. Knock first. Then I sat back and watched. On the feed, Ashley froze when the knock came. Her laugh cut short, eyes darting to the door. Chase smirked, clearly unconcerned. Room service, he said. Ashley hesitated, then opened the door. And in walked her sister, followed by her mother, then two co-workers, then her boss. The look on Ashley's face, that exact instant when her mask shattered, was something I'll carry with me forever. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Her mother gasped. Her sister's jaw dropped. The co-workers exchanged glances, already pulling out phones. Chase straightened, suddenly realizing this wasn't a joke. His smug grin faltered. Ashley, her boss asked, stunned. What is this? Ashley stammered. This isn't what it looks like. Her sister scoffed. Are you serious? You're sitting here half-dressed in a hotel room with your coworker, and it's not what it looks like. Her mother's hand flew to her chest. Ashley, how could you do this? To Logan. Ashley's eyes widened. Logan? He set this up? Right then I walked in. Calm. Steady. Like I was arriving at a dinner reservation. I nodded at everyone, then looked straight at Ashley. Not exactly, I said, but I thought it was time everyone saw the truth. She turned on me, eyes wild. You, how dare you? How dare I? I cut her off, my voice low, even. How dare you? You dragged me through months of lies, Ashley. You mocked me, humiliated me, treated me like furniture in my own house. And now, well, now you get to see what it feels like when the lights turn on. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. Ashley's co-workers were frozen, their phones halfway raised, recording. Her mother's eyes brimmed with tears. Her sister folded her arms, glaring. Chase cleared his throat, trying to salvage his ego. Look, this doesn't have to be dramatic. People make mistakes. It's between them. I turned to him. Chase, the difference between a mistake and a pattern is time. And you've been part of this pattern for months. I stepped closer, looked him dead in the eye. You think you've won something here. But all you've done is hitch yourself to the sinking ship she set on fire. He looked away first. That was enough for me. Ashley tried again, voice rising. Logan, please, we can talk about this. I shook my head. No, Ashley. You had your chance to talk. Every night you came home late. Every time you lied about where you were. Every time you laughed at me behind my back. Talking's over. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket, held it up. This is everything. The receipts. The texts. The videos. My lawyer has copies. The court will have copies. And so will your boss. Her boss paled. Ashley, is that true? Ashley opened her mouth, but I spoke over her. Oh, it's true. And don't worry, I've already filed. Divorce is in motion. Assets divided. Accounts secured. You'll walk away with your car, your clothes, and maybe Chase if he doesn't realize what he's getting himself into. Her sister let out a sharp laugh. Wow, you really thought you were untouchable, huh? Ashley's eyes filled with tears now, but they weren't the kind that came from regret. They were the kind that came from being cornered, from realizing the game was over. I looked around the room, made eye contact with each person. I wanted you all to see her for who she really is. Not the golden daughter, not the model employee, not the perfect wife, just Ashley, the liar who thought she could outsmart everyone. And then I turned back to her. This isn't revenge, Ashley. This is justice. Revenge, that comes later. With that, I slid the flash drive into her boss's hand, nodded politely, and walked out. I didn't need to stay for the fallout. I didn't need to hear the shouting, the tears, the excuses. I'd already won. Back in my car, I sat in the quiet, watching the hotel lights glow against the night sky. For the first time in months, I felt calm, free. But make no mistake, this wasn't the end. Because Ashley thought public humiliation was the worst I could do. She hadn't seen the real finale yet. And when it came, she'd never see it coming. The hotel fiasco should have been the knockout blow. Most people, faced with that kind of exposure, would crumble. But Ashley? She wasn't most people. 3 days later, she showed up at the house with her sister in tow, stormed through the door like she still had a claim to the place. "You humiliated me," she snapped. "You had no right." Her sister, red-faced, tried to play mediator. "Logan, maybe you went too far." I cut her off with a raised hand. "You're standing in a house paid for with my money, signed under my name, protected by a prenup she forgot existed. You don't get to lecture me about too far." Ashley's eyes flashed. "I'll fight you in court. I'll take half, I leaned in, calm and steady. "Half of what, Ashley? You don't own the house. The accounts are locked. The trust is secure. You'll walk away with nothing but your Lexus and whatever dignity you can salvage, though I doubt you'll find much of that left." Her sister pulled her arm. "Let's go." But Ashley wasn't finished. "You think you've won? You think you're clever? I'll tell everyone you're abusive, that you manipulated me. That's why I strayed. People will believe me." I smiled, slow and deliberate. "You do that, Ashley. But remember, I have videos, screenshots, receipts. And the more you talk, the more those little souvenirs of yours go public. Which version of the story do you think your boss will prefer?" For the first time, she went quiet. Her sister tugged her toward the door. Ashley turned at the threshold, eyes burning. "This isn't over." I just smiled. "No, Ashley, it's not." Because she still hadn't seen the trap within the trap. Over the next month, she tried everything. Late-night calls, begging. Angry texts, threatening. Tearful voicemails, swearing she'd change. I ignored them all. Meanwhile, I kept moving. The divorce papers went through. Property divided, assets sealed. She showed up to mediation in a blazer that looked borrowed and a smile that cracked every time she saw the paperwork. Her lawyer tried to posture. "We'll contest the prenup." Mine just chuckled. "Be my guest." I drafted it. By the end of it, Ashley was left with exactly what I promised: her Lexus, her wardrobe, and a stack of legal fees she couldn't afford. Chase, predictably, had already started ghosting her. Without her golden image and steady lifestyle, she wasn't nearly as shiny. But here's the thing, I wasn't satisfied yet. Cutting her off financially was justice. Exposing her was justice. But revenge, the cruel twist she'd never expect, that was still coming. And I had the perfect plan. Ashley had always been obsessed with appearances. She curated her life like an Instagram feed. Perfect smiles, perfect vacations, perfect marriage. Even when she was sneaking around, she needed the world to think she was untouchable. So I made sure the world saw her for what she really was. Remember that little camera in the hotel? I still had hours of footage. I never intended to post it publicly. That wasn't my style. But privately, selectively, that was enough. One copy went to her boss, another to her parents, a third to her sister, who'd always suspected but never had proof. I didn't even need to add commentary. The footage spoke for itself. Ashley laughing, kissing, betraying. The fallout was nuclear. She lost her job within a week. Her mother stopped taking her calls. Her sister told her not to visit until she got her life together. Chase. He vanished completely. Ashley called me one night, voice ragged. "You've ruined me. Are you happy?" I sat at my desk, calm as ever. Not yet, but almost. Because the real finale wasn't just about ruining her image. It was about giving her exactly what she wanted, then watching her choke on it. The day of the final move, I mailed a single envelope to Ashley's apartment. No return address. Inside was a check, substantial, enough to catch her attention. And a note, handwritten. "Congratulations. You're free now. No husband to hold you back. No house to tie you down. No rules. Just you and your choices. Spend it wisely." It wasn't charity. It wasn't guilt. It was bait. I knew Ashley. Knew her better than she knew herself. She'd take that money, throw it at some attempt to reclaim her old life. Designer clothes, luxury trips, a shiny car she couldn't maintain. She'd burn through it in months, maybe weeks. And when it was gone, when the Lexus broke down, When the landlord stopped being patient, when the friend stopped answering, she'd finally see what she had traded for Chase's smirk and a few hotel nights. Not me. Not just the marriage. Stability. Respect. A future. I didn't need to scream at her, didn't need to lift a hand, didn't even need to see her again. Because the cruelest revenge isn't taking everything from someone. It's letting them realize they threw it all away themselves. And as I sat in my quiet house, sipping coffee in the morning sunlight, I smiled. Ashley would never see the ending coming because she wrote it herself. All I did was give her the pen.